Hey guys, Better Call Saul, the finale. We're gonna get into it next.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh,
Good to hear it again.
yes, yes. Brought back an old friend.
Hey guys! How's everyone doing tonight? Are you all just really just frozen right now?
Or maybe depressed. I
Or
don't
just
know.
like staring ahead blankly like, oh my god! Every plot line is so sad.
Oh,
Every
geez.
plot line is so sad and never ending.
It is sad. It is sad. Hey guys, welcome back. You were watching the after show for Better Call Saul, the season finale, Lantern. I'm Rick Hong. You can find me on all social media at Rick Hong, RICKHONG, and backed by popular demand, Zach Wilson.
Hey guys, I was able to finally catch up on the show when I didn't have to work Monday nights, and I saw the finale just in time to make it into the studio. Find me on Twitter and Instagram and yell at me for not showing up at that Zach Wilson.
What's going on, guys? It's Nate Miller. You can find me on social media at DogLikeNate.
And I'm Steve Kaufmann. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That's KAUFMANN.
All right, guys, so before we get into it, because we're going to have a lot to talk about, because this is a good finale, as they all are, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, I just want to talk to you real quick about MeUndies.com, MEUNDIES.com, and they are the most softest, comfortable underwear you'll ever wear. This month, they have a rainbow confetti print called Celebrate. You can get them at MeUndies.com/buzz, get it, AFTERBUZZ, BUZZ. It's 20% off your first pair. If you don't like them, they're saying that they will give them to you for free and free shipping. So don't forget, 20% off. MeUndies.com/buzz. Please use that.
And that's 20% off the price, not right. It's not like 20% higher up my legs.
No, it's 80%. It's 80% less underwear.
Off your first pair, guys. Off your first pair.
So I have 20%, so it's more thong-esque,
Yes.
you'd say?
They have all different sizes of undies.
All right, so I can get a thong, is what you're saying.
Oh, yes.
All right, great.
And it'll be the most comfortable thong you've ever worn.
Yes.
No,
Being a
I'm
thong
gonna-
expert. Like
I'm
you
going to
are.
give a suggestion for these guys right now. It's for hopefully like they have a USA pair for 4th of July. If not, you guys should make one. All right. MeUndies.com/buzz.
Or you could do it Saul style, and it's just the Constitution right across your crotch.
I already have that.
They have some great undies. They really do have some funky designs. It's kind of counterintuitive because it's like, you wear them under your clothes, but when people do see them, they can be like, damn, where'd you get those? And you could be like, oh, MeUndies.
MeUndies.com.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn,
cool.
I'm going to read up on the 4th Amendment. Give me a second.
Okay, guys. Okay.
With that,
No, wait a second. Let's get into the finale.
That went
and,
way too far.
Oh, I took it too far.
Yes.
Too far.
Yes.
yeah, you did.
Yeah. At most 3 amendments you can fit on there. You're not getting to the 4th.
No, it should be the first one. It should be the First Amendment, freedom of speech, right? Just have your balls hanging out of the underwear.
You see what happens? The train leaves the station. There's no
Come back,
stopping it.
and like, what has happened?
This.
Okay, we are at full force. I've seen Steve Kaufmann up here sometimes saying like we're like at half capacity, but we are definitely at full force, maybe at 110% because Zach Wilson is here, one of the original Better Call Saul. So, panelists. And hey, satisfactory for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good season finale. AMC, do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? Because it has not officially been renewed, but this is a good season finale. It ended on a big beat. There's enough of a cliffhanger that I'm absolutely coming back.
They're not in danger of not. I mean, I can't imagine that.
I say the same thing, but why hasn't it been renewed? AMC.
Things are all over the place at AMC right now, too.
Yeah, I know there's been some departures that like Variety and Hollywood Reporter announced.
Oh man, this is they'd be foolish because this is like this franchise is what put them on the map.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not questioning whether it's going to come back.
Yeah,
I'm just
I know.
trying to put AMC.
Right, yeah. Get the announcement
Nothing
tomorrow.
wrong with a little pressure.
But this is a good season finale in that like we got everyone's plot lines moved into a place. Like there were some things that finished, like story, like plot arcs that ran out. It wasn't just a cliffhanger, but like it also gave some finality, while also being like, what the hell happens next? What do you guys think?
Oh, I really enjoyed this finale. I think it's season finale. I will also clarify, but I really enjoyed the way this show does things, and we talk about it a bit. That the finale does let a lot of things close up, but then leave enough cliffhangers that we're kind of dealing with the ramifications of what's happened for the next 5 episodes of the remaining season.
It's what Steve always says. So like last season, like it opened up the court case and it ended at probably like around.
This show takes what would be a traditional television season, but does it 5 from one season and then 5 from the following season, so that you're always kind of on edge with this show, and that's why I like it.
Interesting. Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be the bad guy, but I did not really enjoy this episode. I thought there were some good parts to it. There's a lot of good scenes. I don't know if maybe my expectations were just too high. And I get the whole leaving things on a cliffhanger, but I still need some type of resolution, because I feel like so much of the second half of the season has been a slow burn. At least me, I expected it to build to something, and what happened for me was not enough of a explosion after the wick burns down.
Here's the reason he is saying that, and Zach, you haven't been here, is because this guy, he loves Mike.
I do.
He loves Mike,
I was very disappointed.
That's why you don't like this episode, brother. That's why.
You know me too well. If
there's no Mike
expecting
you're like
something, and it's like we got a lot of really good, tense scenes and really well directed and acted stuff. It just didn't feel like it came together for what is like a great finale. For me, this seems like a second to last episode before the finale or something along those natures. Like I feel very unsatisfied going into the break.
Interesting.
As opposed to last season, where it was still kind of cliffhangery, but there was some type of resolution. At least I felt like.
That's really interesting, because I had the exact opposite reaction to the 2 finales. I thought last year was too big of like a cliffhanger. Like there was like, I knew that was the mid-season break, not a season break. This to me felt, because I think partially because like with Hector Salamanca, like we know where he winds up, so this is like. It caps that arc to a certain point. Like I know where he's going, and if I didn't see him again, like before Breaking Bad, I would totally know what his journey is from here to there.
We had so much speculation too on what was going to happen, and so just for us to go from like thinking about all the ways that this accident could happen to him that puts him in that wheelchair, and like how most likely it's not going to be like what we expect, the most straightforward thing, which is the medicine, and then that's what it is, and it's just like, it's not like, again, it makes sense, but it's like it just feels almost anticlimactic, almost like it almost felt like that was really supposed to be a diversion while something else happened, and that just kind of just turned out to be that. I don't know. Again, that's where I think some of my disappointment
that was my prediction for a couple weeks. But sometimes a well-laid plan just happens exactly as the character lays it.
Yeah. I think especially like just like across all lines, like the Sandpiper crossing more or less came to a finish. Like Chuck's story,
I think it was a good episode.
To a finish.
I'm just personally not, but and I think that's another big reason why I'm not a huge fan of the episode. Is I feel like the whole Chuck thing seemed forced. I feel it felt kind of rushed. I think with a lot of the progression we've seen him do through the season, and even as he's been like struggling to maintain this image of him getting better when he's not really as better as he seems, just to go from a conversation with Jimmy and how things happen with Howard to just go straight off the deep end, and like he just completely loses it and then goes into just willing full suicide. It just seems maybe I missed something there.
I don't know.
He had a giant break.
Well, no, because Steve, I want your take on this one, because
you want it now. I don't know where we're starting.
No. Okay. Actually, no. Let's just start here, because I want your take on it. No. Hey, if our conversations organically go somewhere, let's just talk about it for a second, because that was the big kind of big bang at the end of this episode. But because you thought that like Chuck would kind of disappear a few episodes ago after Jimmy like totally just blew him up in court.
Well, I also thought
no pun intended.
I thought the blow up in court would be enough to hermit Chuck into to almost all but certainly get Chuck committed in some way of like publicly shamed hermit like won't actively seek help, but will be found in a payphone with space blankets, and they have to commit him. That didn't happen. What happened was similar in the sense that he got better and then got worse.
And see, for me, I just felt like this is an okay ending for him because there wasn't much more you could do with Chuck. I felt like in terms of like they kind of played his storyline out.
This kind of thing happening, it just maybe I missed something in the character. It just feels like a really strange turn all of a sudden, and it gets so
makes
drastic.
Sense to me, especially like he seemed to be getting better, and that's what happens a lot of times with suicides is that people seem to be on the uptick, and it just takes hitting a wall at some point, and just it spirals them down even further than they were before. Like what happened to him in this episode, he had this emotional moment with Jimmy where he like called his he like said one of the most hurtful things that he possibly could.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's true, he knows that he hurt his brother. But beyond that, he went into Hamlin to HHM.
I was gonna say even before that.
And he went into HHM and he was like so resolute about what he was gonna do, and the moment that you could see him like question every move that he'd made as soon as Hamlin handed him that check and he found out it was from his personal account. And I think it all comes down to like the look on his face when he is leaving HHM, where he can't even bring himself to say anything. Like Hamlin got everyone to like give him this big send off, even though he was doing such an asshole thing to the company and to his friend. I think he basically realized at a certain point in this episode that he had, for everything that he said about Jimmy and how Jimmy is a bad person, he had become he was doing the same thing that Jimmy was on a different level in a different like area, but he did something Jimmy would do. He suddenly couldn't separate himself from this person that he thought was the devil.
One of the key lines that Howard has when you're talking, and he's talking about how like, you know, he says like, we built this company together. I used to trust you. You used to put the firm first, but you're not that person anymore. And when he said that, I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. Like, obviously you think of them on the same camp, but they're almost kind of like the same person. And we've seen Chuck kind of completely fall off and take a left-hand turn from that. And Howard's kind of like tried to stay by his side the whole time and tried to be advocate and like rein him in. And he's starting to realize like he's just going a different way. So it was really cool to see him like verbalize that. And so going from that scene and him walking down, if that was just what we saw and then we saw the end, then I could kind of get it. But I think for me is the display of him when Jimmy comes in and how he seemingly, I don't see that as a scenario where he set that up for Jimmy to come and him to be playing it up. It seemed like he was just genuinely chilling in the house. And especially after the way that did I miss something there?
No, keep going. No, I'm going to chime in after this.
But the way that he, when they have their exchange, he seems so resolute and so like straightforward and not unsure of himself at all. And obviously he's had enough because he's saying this incredibly hurtful thing, but to see him go from that to then so quickly, especially right after that moment, flip over, for me is what is confusing.
Now, Steve, but you had a thing when we were watching it. This is your philosophy on it.
My philosophy on it as I watched it, as I caught it, and I have no science to back this up, other than the fact that we know what Chuck has isn't a literal allergy to electricity.
Psychosomatic.
It's a psychosomatic illness. Anything psychosomatic would be brought on by some type of trigger. I think Jimmy's the trigger.
I could see that.
I think Jimmy's the trigger, and then
he's
his
been
mind
getting better
somehow...
because Jimmy hasn't been there, and then all of a sudden Jimmy comes back and brings up this whole big issue, and
I don't know.
He just doesn't seem emotional afterwards. But
I don't know that it's necessarily Jimmy, like, as a person, but I think it's that...
Or his relationship to Jimmy might be the trigger?
Or just, like, his... Like, I think it's failings. Like, really, it's that, like, any kind of failure to Chuck, like, we've seen, like, that is his biggest fear, I think, is failure. And, like, where, like, he failed in his marriage, that was the initial trigger. And right here, when Jimmy is, like, trying to... repent for what he'd done. Like, I think he's
100% right though with what he told Jimmy though. It's like whether, even though he feels genuinely these emotions and like he wants to make things better because he feels sad about death because Kim almost died, like at the end of the day he's not gonna change. He's saying these things to make himself feel better, not to make Chuck feel any better.
And I think we're forgetting very quickly that Chuck is out of HHM because of what Jimmy did.
I just want to talk about
Like
the.
that one.
But Chuck didn't know that, really, right?
No, but Jimmy.
Jimmy knows that, but Chuck didn't know that.
But yeah, but how? It wasn't even an apology. It was just more of a, I feel bad that this happened to you. But even that should have been taken with a bit of a grain of salt from Jimmy, where it's like, but you did that. Like, your malice for your brother.
And then the timeline too. So they have their conversation. He tries to go to sleep. So this is later that night. Can't sleep. Wakes up in the middle of the night. So then is that like it's daytime when we next see him?
As Fabricio TV in the chat points out, like he asks, like, well, what pill did he take? He took an Ambien. That's enough of another thing to push him over the edge as well. Because Ambien and any kind of drug like that can also push those things, push suicidal thoughts forward.
I assumed he was taking whatever else she had prescribed him.
He wrote down on his in his little book. He wrote down Ambien.
Oh, then that's actually kind of textbook because that's.
But he didn't sleep. He ended up not sleeping anyway.
If he was that stressed that he didn't sleep,
I think he took the
Ambien in his system. So,
and I mean, obviously he had a breakdown because he went far beyond he's ever gone before with the holes in the wall and busting the transformer. So there's something.
And at this stage, he's got like nothing to live for. I mean, to a certain degree.
Like
you were saying,
yeah.
like there's no wife, there's no job, there's no brother. Yeah. So now he has really reputation. Way too much time on his hands. So that's why he's like destroying kind of half the place because what else is he gonna do?
It's not even like he could go like start another firm. The reason he was kicked out of HHM was specifically because he was a liability. He wouldn't even be able to get his own insurance. Like his own malpractice insurance would be through the roof. So like, yeah, what's next? What would be next for Chuck? And I think that's where, like, whether or not that's the right way to look at the world, like when you get into those things, and when he's like, and I think also just like after he tears apart his house, he's like, well, I'm a broken man. I can't fix myself.
Yeah, I can see that.
And he gets into that headspace, and like he was making such good progress, and it's a shame because he was, but that's not at that point. That's not where somebody who has a mental illness would see themselves.
Yeah, it's really hard to go back from the holes in your house everywhere.
Is this so? Is this
without
where you guys,
a moment of clarity? Like he just didn't have that.
I mean, is this where you guys saw his demise? I mean, Zach, did you ever see like Chuck's demise was going to be? In terms of
I would never have thought that was where it was going to go. Once it did, like again with all these circumstances, I totally bought it. I would not have like guessed that.
Suicide, no. The fire thing, I actually kind of saw it coming this episode only because it's been
the lantern up top. And
the lantern has been a thing for a while now. That he's got a fire lantern, a bunch of newspapers, whatever, lots of flammable shit. It's right. I didn't even know.
Yeah, no, of course not. No, we're not going to do that.
But the moment he was like looking for things to turn off, I'm like, what about the fire alarm? He's gonna turn everything off and the house is gonna catch on fire and he's gonna die. So even then, I knew it was gonna be fire, but I was not thinking suicide.
I thought he might like tear through the wall, find whatever electric current was going. I thought he was gonna electrocute himself, which would have been poetic in a different way for him.
Yes, that would have that might have been a little too on the nose.
Also, it's one of those things that people might not necessarily write it off as a suicide. If the whole house,
I didn't want to get into predictions, but
if the whole house burns, they might not necessarily know that he tore it apart.
I don't think anyone's going to call it a suicide. I think they're going to call it a mental breakdown that led to an accident,
or just an accident. They might just say he had an accident with the lantern because
they'll be able to see that he was ripping the house apart.
So I mean that goes into predictions later, but okay, so do we want to talk about Jimmy in this episode? Which
I don't know.
Right? What's interesting was that like I thought that there were two things. Is when he's talking to Chuck, you know, I almost did like the whole embrace Saul. You know, he's just like it wasn't that, but it was just kind of like just embrace who you are.
Sort of
and for me, it was just embrace Saul. And you know, we saw like a lot of the turns start happening, and I really thought in this episode he really was going to fully become Saul. Like for the finale, but then all of a sudden he kind of reverts a little bit back to being Jimmy.
But I also think while we're transitioning from Chuck to Jimmy, that scene is very telling because he said, "I'd respect you more if you were just upfront about how you're a destroyer," which I think we've kind of established that Jimmy deep down inside wants to be respected by his brother, who was always considered better than him. That the Saul Goodman we later meet is at least somebody who's upfront about who he is.
Right.
He's at the very least being who his brother would respect.
At least how he says it in this moment.
Yeah, or at
I
least
feel like it's something that you just say when you want to hurt someone, though. I don't think that if he was like, all right, Chuck, I've decided I just ruined things. I'm going to own it. That's when I think he's like, yeah, great, good job. I don't think.
Well, maybe
I
not
think he's
ruin
still
thi-
going to give him a lecture and be like, oh, you need to do this. You need to change, yada, yada, yada.
But he's always been saying this, though. I mean, he said this to, like, how, like, and he's been saying this all season long.
And also, this is the last thing.
Jimmy is
This is
this
the
type
last
of a
thing, yeah.
person.
And
This is the
that's-
last thing his brother, who
Right.
he's strived to get respect for, says. That is going to form whoever he
Yeah.
becomes for the rest of
And
the.
this is officially the last time that Jimmy spoke to him.
Yeah.
After just having the Kim death scare. So he's already emotional. I mean, that's the only reason why he went over there. So I'm curious to see how this affects him.
You know, he even says it, like, when he's in with Kim, he says, you know, I'm good at tearing things down.
Yeah, but I
So-
think that him with I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. The lady who's
Irene,
in charge of
Irene,
Irene. I was like almost pleasantly surprised to see him go through all of that. I did not see the plan coming with the other lady from Sandpiper.
Well, see, but that's what I'm saying is that I thought that there are remnants of. I thought he was going to go full Saul Goodman, but in here he really reverts to being Jimmy McGill.
I think
because if he was Saul Goodman, he just would have kept going and it's kind of
Well,
been
no,
like
full Saul
No, but-
Goodman wouldn't have cared that he destroyed that lady's life.
right.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That
guess you're
this
right.
was still Jimmy. This was still Jimmy, where it's like, I'll let this entire deal fall apart if she still gets to have her life
think
back
about it that way.
back to where it was before. Like, it's not like he won't get a payday. He'll still get a payday
But not
when
for
the setup. Not for years, but the only reason he really wanted a payday was to keep the office, and he's come to terms with the fact that he would rather have Kim in the office.
I thought his interactions with Kim with this episode were great.
Yeah.
Him with the breakfast and the Gatorade and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
It was really nice.
so let's go to Kim. I mean, so she is. So and we definitely saw her get like banged. I mean, that was a great directed scene last week
Yeah.
with like a car going and all of a sudden just.
Yeah, we talked about it. The editing was
Yeah,
just
it's amazing.
phenomenal.
And so like now she's back with. We see and
She's tore up.
but Jimmy's taking care of her.
Yeah.
He's taking care of her. They're talking, and I don't know. It's like she has like this like weird turn where she's about to kind of get into. All right, I'm gonna get back to, and then all of a sudden she's like, no. And then we see her going to like Blockbuster, which is awesome to see in this episode.
2003.
I'm wondering how far they went with that set. If it was really just the Blockbuster wall with like a couple racks of movies.
Probably, but
I
I would.
imagine that's just the smartest way to do it. But just thinking of like there being a
I mean,
Blockbuster
what
somewhere.
are they going to go to a DVD rental place? Just a different one?
Those don't exist.
They
anymore.
don't exist at all.
I'm pretty sure you can't go into like an independent video rental place and be like, "Hey, we want to shoot here. Can we put a big Blockbuster sign up in the background?" I don't know if they would. if they would like that.
This
Yeah,
show
they do
probably.
that. They do that all the time. I think when you just like
I would
go-
be
like, put a
upset.
big
I'd be
sign
like,
up and-
"No,
But for this, it could
we're
just
not Blockbuster."
For that, it would just easily be a soundstage. But I could see them building a whole Blockbuster just in case there
I mean,
was
they
more dialogue
built
to be had.
One angle, so
Yeah.
like I feel like they probably have a standing set. It's,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
racks
yeah,
and
yeah.
a single
Here we go.
flat.
Just
Look,
against
it's
the wall.
very
like that.
complex.
The Mothman Prophecies DVD in the
Look,
back.
the movie selection was excellent.
Darkness Falls. If you guys caught that, Darkness Falls.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it was cool to see. I was like really nervous that she was just gonna really just go straight back into it, but it was good to see her have that moment of she's like, all right, I almost just died. Maybe I should take a break and not only like overwork myself as I'm sick on one gig, but maybe I shouldn't take on this extra job that was already going to be too much.
So then the interesting is who's bringing in money. I mean, I'm not saying because like obviously like Gatwood was still cool with her. It's like he's like saying get better. Like let's like we heard from like Francesca, and she still has
Mesa Verde.
Yeah.
but like Jimmy now has completely like at least for the time being foregone.
Pushed off his payday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be the thing for them to work on. Like Kim still got income from Mesa Verde. Like she's taking a couple weeks off, but I think with a job like that, it's like contract based. So like her taking a couple weeks off, like maybe they'll have to outsource some of the like day to day somewhere else, but she's still covering the bulk of the
Yeah, I think she's still going to be
thing. So
Well,
like
yeah.
she's covered, and without the office, they like keep
save a lot of
income
funds
coming.
without
they're just
Francesca.
it's
too.
like rent and food at that
Yeah.
point. Rent and food and cars, like the normal stuff. Which
Yeah.
Who's gonna?
And Jimmy will eventually, like Jay Becker in the chat, is like Jimmy has the payday. They'll settle. They will eventually settle, but that's not coming for a little while
Yeah, I
now.
think that
Like,
was the point.
They're talking about like that could be years out if they don't take this.
it's not quite a prediction, but I think if Howard owes Chuck $9 million,
See,
and
right?
Chuck's no longer living, Chuck's next of kin would be his brother, not his ex-wife, right?
Right, because
Chuck's
once you get divorced, you're giving up that.
So
unless he's
his
giving her
next of
alimony
kin
checks or
would be
something.
Jimmy. However, how much do you want to think that Howard would not give Jimmy that money over his dead
And
body?
don't forget if he had like say this is a little bit predictions, but like life insurance, how much of the house cost. Mm-hmm. So if it's a real accident, then like that's all like Jimmy gets to pocket that money.
Yeah.
If the legal process is, unless Chuck specifically said nothing goes to my brother ever.
Yeah,
Sounds
which
like you
honestly,
would
I could see that
think he would
happening.
do
I could see
that.
him writing that will before he kicks the lantern over.
Or that he wrote it within those weeks where he got better.
Well, he
Or
wouldn't.
he's sitting there and no, Jimmy.
Under no
unless he had a
circumstances.
fireproof safe that he stuck just the will into.
I believe it. I believe he would go through those links.
Yeah, he might actually. But yeah, I think that ultimately Jimmy is on. It's so interesting. He's on the uptick, like he's on this good guy track, but we know he's gonna get smacked back down, unless. We rewrite a lot of Breaking Bad into like him like putting like that this is like all a character, like we know it's a character, but if we mentally rewrite like how he behaves there, that this is like a fully conscious persona, and then at the end of the day he goes home and is Jimmy, like this guy who would sacrifice his future career and like money, his reputation within this community to help this old woman that he hurt, a single person. I don't know that that's really what it's gonna be.
I
don't really believe that, but it's the part of me that wants Jimmy to stay good.
It's just like good is just a fine line, because yes, he did he risked all these things and lost all these contacts which he already couldn't do business with. So I don't think he really lost as much as it seems like. And also, I think as nice of it is for him to do this, I think it's more so about him assuaging the guilt that he feels for putting her in this position in the first place. It's
what makes his character human. Still.
Right. It's good that he's doing this, but again, she wouldn't be in this position if he didn't do this to her. So he's fixing his own problem that he caused. So it's not like he's like a white knight in this scenario.
Oh no, yeah,
He's a gray knight.
Yeah. Right. And so I don't know. Like I could see Saul Goodman doing a similar thing of, trying to get ahead of something, accidentally hurting someone else in the process, not realizing it, and then being like, all right, shit, what can I do to fix this? I think even as like, I don't know if greedy's the right word, but as business minded as Saul Goodman is and what he'll do for like a penny, I think the Jimmy's character is still there.
Yeah, I did love that moment where they're like, when they're moving out of the office and she's like, it was a great wall, there'll be another one, and then you're like, yeah, there will. There's gonna be an epic one.
I think that's another thing too. It's pretty symbolic of them for him to finally let go of the office and not like throw a tantrum or anything about it. Just
And that
be really
ugly mural that he made.
I liked it.
Wait, okay. I mean, so
I
I thought it was
cool.
minimalistic. It was creative.
I also
okay,
think that
got the job done.
I also think the mural is kind of symbolic of
like
both the season and probably the relationship between
His stock market. After
I
he
was
said the stock
surprised.
market thing, I couldn't unsee it.
I saw that immediately, where
was a
that's
good
just
one.
the idea of it, just ups and downs, peaks and valleys, but like it clearly
Yeah.
ends.
And so, okay, so then with saying goodbye to the office, momentarily, we say goodbye to Francesca.
Yeah.
Wow.
she'll be back. I have a gut feeling.
Bye, Francesco.
Right? It's like, yeah, I wasn't sure how they were.
When we
like
open up
Francesca.
another office, you'll be the first call. It's like,
She's like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Great.
I love just that honest look of like she wanted to tell them off a little of like, well, I won't take it. I should take steady employment, but like, nah, you guys do fun stuff here.
oh, that wasn't how I took it. I took it as like she doesn't believe it's ever gonna come.
Oh, okay.
Like she's
That's what
just
I
like, yeah, that'd be nice, but like, we're
Let's be real.
closing up this office.
Yeah, like so she's got one
probably
arm.
not
You
gonna
have
happen
no law
again.
license.
yeah.
So really, throwing away your Rolodex like this is done.
All right, so let's get into Mr. Nacho, or as you like to call him, Taco.
Or Tuco, as he called him last week.
Wow.
How's
All right.
Tuco?
Shots fired.
Wow.
I'll own my mistakes, guys.
See the bus?
It was simple. I mean, it's the interesting thing about this show. I feel like whether on purpose or by accident, they wound up with 2 shows going on, and like usually shows have like multiple plot lines that like intertwine, but like they naturally just like went off in different directions where you have like Jimmy's plotline, Chuck's plotline, and then like Nacho over here somewhere.
way to the side.
It's so intriguing, but it's like, oh, this is Breaking Bad prequel. This is Jimmy.
Yeah, this is a Better Call Saul prequel, like if you will.
Yeah. But I thought it was cool. I like Nacho standing up for himself. Like ultimately, like he's like, this can't wait. Like the pill thing is too slow. And it worked out for him in the end, but he was just like ready to shoot him. He would have been so screwed.
Well, I mean, because he's scared for his dad. Because he's just like, I know my dad's gonna like. That's what they're setting all those scenes. Because he's like, my dad is gonna screw this up because he's a proud man, and then clearly like, what? Salamanca sits there and says like, I don't trust him. And it's like, oh,
Well, of course you don't trust
We
him.
know
That's
what
what I've
that
been
means.
trying to tell you. You shouldn't trust him.
Like you shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, like he's my father. I would know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
obviously we know Don Hector is stubborn.
yeah.
But I thought the performance, but I don't know the actor's name, but
He's
Hector,
amazing. He's in Scarface.
Margolis.
Regardless,
Yeah,
he did
it was good to see him actually like more than just be like the angry old man in like little bursts.
sort of
Like he actually
quietly
got
angry.
like, yeah, like he got like. He had like some shit to say. He's like, "No, we built this.
suck me,
Our
suck
money,
me,
our
yeah.
family, our blood. You know, this is And he was like, he's telling him to suck me. Like, damn.
He knew it was it before he goes to doing this.
Man.
Just jigging the little thing and scrunching his nose. But I thought it was interesting about this scene was how Gus is actually trying to make sure that he doesn't die. And I don't know, that was a little interesting. Or he's just like, no muerte. He's like, no muerte, cabrón. It's just like, don't die, you son of a bitch, or whatever. And he's actually there. I figured he'd just be just like, or maybe
but
I
I
think he still needs Hector.
Yeah.
Like on the one hand, he needs him for like the business and stuff. I think there's also that part of just knowing more of Fring's background than we have from Better Call Saul. Like we know that he wants to torture Hector. He doesn't want him to have just like a quick death like this, like with a stroke. He wants him to live to see his empire taken away from him.
yeah.
I think that's a big part of it. Gus is not a good guy. Like, remember that.
It's hard to. This series, like Better
It's
Call
just, like,
Saul
it's all-
this season.
It puts characters in perspective because it's like when you put him next to like Hector, it's like, oh yeah, Gus is so nice, but like
in comparison.
right, exactly.
But you like flashback too, like in terms of like what happened to Gus. It's like when you see like your, I guess, lover, like
Oh, and bad things have happened to him, and he's a nice. He's probably one of the nicest people in this business.
Probably the nicest bad person you'll ever.
He's still Gus Fring. He's still done plenty. You don't climb to that point without a little
Right.
bit.
yeah, correct.
Yeah. But this I think set up a really, like, it sets up what is coming in a great way. And like I was saying, like this, there is more story to tell between here and Breaking Bad for Gus Fring and for Hector. But if I didn't see them again, I would completely know how we get from I guess B to C.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Sure, they bridge a lot of that gap.
Nacho, on the other hand, I still want more of his story. I want to know where he goes from here.
Yeah, well, especially with that shot of Gus looking at Nacho
Yeah.
knowingly.
And I still stand by from like way early in season 1, or like not. We talked about it early in season 1, but from the first appearance of Saul on Breaking Bad when he references, what's the name he uses? The actual, what probably is Nacho's actual name. Which I'm blanking on, but you all know the reference.
Dude, you
I'm
can't think about that. I mean, come on, dude. It's only like a couple years.
The
ago.
chat, help me out here. Save me. But yeah, like because when Jimmy's like, when Saul is like on his knees in the desert, he's like, is it about?
He uses the Christian name of that character.
Yeah, and I want to know why.
Yeah, like
there's still stuff there.
In an upcoming season, their paths have to cross. Like he's
more
so,
directly. I mean, they already know each other.
He's deeply entrenched in, he's clearly deeply entrenched in all of this by Breaking Bad. Whether it's a story they tell or not is the real question. Although we're getting close.
Ignacio.
Because
Ignacio Nacho. Yeah, thank you, Judge, El Sky, Justin,
yes. Justin Falzone, thank you.
Adrian, everybody.
Yeah.
Because if this is 03, when does Breaking Bad start in 04 or 05?
Breaking Bad starts in 2004.
Okay.
So we're pretty, right? Either way, we're pretty
You guys
close.
keep talking.
Yeah, we're very, very close.
I'll tell you where we're at.
I'm almost positive the show started in 04.
I'm not gonna pretend to know.
I've got to hear to know when where it's at right now.
The chat will help us out there as well. But either way, we're not that many years away, regardless. So.
Yeah, they're in 03 because Darkness Falls.
Oh, wait, I think it was was it 2008?
That sounds more right.
Yeah, I think it was 2008. Now that I think
the
about
chat
it.
will help us.
So they're in about 2003, 2004 because Darkness Falls is on that rack.
Yeah,
and
2008.
Here it says 2003 is when Darkness Falls was released. So that means if it went to video after theatrical whatever, it's somewhere between 2003 and 2004.
This is 2003. Better Call Saul right now is in 2003.
Right.
Breaking Bad starts in 2008. So we're 5 years separated from Walter White.
All right, so we're actually
5 more seasons.
Well,
and a movie. No.
Well, and we're more like 6 because we don't see Saul Goodman, and we don't see Saul Goodman in the first season.
No.
So that we're more than.
But
6.
we know he's there. He's established by then. He's well established at that point.
So we're still either way, we're still a few years off.
Yeah. Well, who knows how long he's been there? He could get there in 2004 and be 4 years into that business. His ads aren't a new thing. He's
he is an established pillar of that community by the time Walter White meets him.
Yeah. So I'd say he's at least, it's got to be at least 2 years before. So 2006 I think is the latest he could possibly start his Saul Goodman career.
Yeah, because we have to give him the year of they've started his year of.
Yeah, he won't be back to
attorney.
practicing law till 2004. So he has 2005, 2006, 2007 to get started in somewhere in there, and then
by 08, 09 he meets. Okay, that timeline checks out.
Oh wait, because Breaking Bad happens very quickly.
Oh, you're right, because 08 happened Breaking
Bad is not covering a huge amount of time.
Yes.
So let's
covered a huge amount of our lives.
So let's move into predictions then.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Because we definitely haven't been predicting. Just try and stop me.
I'll jump in. I think the official turn of Jimmy to Saul will be when he loses Kim. Either she hightails it out of town or just realizes that he's too bad for her to deal with and I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with you. It's to your core. I'm leaving you. And that's what's going to make him turn to be Saul. The true Saul Goodman of she was the only thing that was keeping me caring about anyone ever. I'm going to stop. I'm in it for the money. I'm in it to just be a lawyer for myself.
Yeah, it's, I mean,
Slim and
it's
Jim,
like
like back to Slim and Jimmy. I think that's my ultimate. Also, I think Chuck officially wrote him out of the will, because all of these hurdles we're talking about would be a lot easier if Jimmy had $9 million.
It's like the flip side of Chuck, where we were just talking about how Chuck had nothing to live for. So for Jimmy, the full turn is he loses everybody in his life that he cares about, and so he's like, I might as well just embrace the bad guy. Essentially, is what you're saying.
The other thing is, I don't think it's $9 million. That was like coming out of Hamlin's like pocket. Like Jimmy could technically like sue for it.
Yeah.
But I don't buy that he would do the same thing that Chuck would, like sue a company into the ground that way.
Yeah. Well, he would have to hire a lawyer.
Yeah.
He's gonna hire Kim.
And they know that and Jimmy can't afford to hire a lawyer to sue HHM. Like, you just can't until the Sandpiper Crossing comes in. The question is, how does he get to a point where he gets $1.2 million,
1.2, I think,
and has to go back to like working for very little money per client off the street? Does he somehow, like, I think we're going to see him somehow lose all of his Sandpiper money. The question is just how. Does he get ripped off by drug dealers? Does he get sued by somebody? Or does it somehow wind up in Kim's hands? I don't know.
No, I mean,
but
maybe
there's no way that he keeps that money.
Maybe there's a delay because maybe Irene dies. And so therefore they maybe have to like refile or sit there and say because that Irene's the one that like I want to say when you do like a class action, she's the one that brought forth, so she's the one that brings it forth, and she dies. Maybe it just keeps getting pushed back. So he's like, I've got to revert to
she's just the class representative. If she passed away, they would just appoint a new.
No, and so like, that's what I'm saying. It's like to the next person, it just keeps getting delayed.
That delay wouldn't be years. That would be weeks.
The delays, the delay's already years. They've said like the settlement is years away.
So maybe that's why maybe he gets that's the high. He gets the high, the thrill of being Saul Goodman, because he's like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I do. So it's like that thrill of, you know what, I'm gonna be the bad guy, and I enjoy being the bad guy, and so that's the only thing that he's good at.
Like maybe he has that. Maybe he uses that settlement to start the practice.
That's it.
I feel like he had some money in the show when he was.
Chuck or Jimmy?
Jimmy.
He had some, but like he was still like working,
right?
Like, doing like crap work with like a bad crowd,
right?
Not the way you behave. You have $1.5 million in the $1.5 million in the bank.
Yeah, he's like getting public defender money, which is not a lot.
Like he's making,
but he was
private
making,
public.
But I mean, he was making public defender money like
but it's
20
also,
times a day.
Yeah, but it's also like. We're talking about Saul. I'm talking about Breaking Bad Saul Goodman.
Yeah.
He's doing his bail whatever stuff he was doing, but he's also doing that to funnel his money so that all of this illegal money that he's getting, he can have something to show for it, right?
Like the car
because
wash
if he had
or
because if he had a bunch
of
money from whatever he got it from, he's got to have some way to launder. He can't just not work because he's got a bunch of money, right?
Well, if he had it legally.
Possibly.
He would have to have illegal money.
That's a good, I like that.
I think
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I interpreted it, because it seemed like he's doing, by the time we get to Breaking Bad, no, he's not like rolling in it, but he seemed pretty comfortable.
He seemed comfortable, I think, because he had a fairly successful law practice going on. But I stand, at least for my prediction, I'm gonna say he's gonna get sued by someone and lose all that Sandpiper money.
I'm gonna say he somehow doesn't get it.
I think there has to be some issue with Kim, because the show just can't continue if they're like happy. And I think the money is going to have something to do with that.
Maybe.
I think she just decides to be somebody else, and this is the turn that we're seeing from her. Is I thought that I wanted to be this aggressive, on the ball attorney, and now she's like, because she's faced death, she's like, maybe I want to do something else, and maybe that's the friction, is that I don't want to be associated. Like I want something different with my life, and it's not just. And she enjoyed, because for a while she enjoyed doing the scams with Jimmy for a little bit, But now that she has like this like life-altering moment, maybe that's where it turns things just like, I don't want to live my life that type of way.
wants to be more
and so that
Atticus
could be the
Finch.
wedge between the two of them, and that's why we don't possibly not see Kim in Breaking Bad.
Oh, you know what I could see Better Call Saul totally doing is Jimmy sees that like he is rubbing off too much on Kim
And so then
pushing
he
her to like not be who
sabotages
she
the
is,
relationship?
and he
Yeah, I can see
sabotages the
that.
relationship, pushes her away so that she can get back to being Kim Wexler, and he leaves a broken man like off to be Saul, while ultimately being the good guy to that relationship. It'll break our hearts.
Oh man.
And then he's going to try to find her in Nebraska.
All right, here's my really stretch prediction. I think that there's going to be something with the fire that implicates Jimmy because he was the last one there. Either like he left something like a battery or something, like hid something when he left that was like buzzing, and that's what drove him crazy, or something along those lines. But I think that he is going to be implicated in some ways. Again, it's kind of a pretty far offshoot, but I think just to have the fire and just have it like go away is like a waste of a plot device, especially with the fact that Jimmy was the last one there and he kind of set it off, not literally, but actually kind of literally.
I'm worried that might happen.
I think especially with the way that he left last and the whole thing of like something being on in the house and like he can't find it just seemed kind of fishy to me.
I could see them moving forward. I could see this starting. I could see the next season starting like at the funeral and then like blowing past all this, but that's also...
I really want to see more Howard too because he was great in this episode, and so I'm hoping that with that it's almost like the end of like the HHM plotline for more or less. Like there's really not too much else reason.
We'll probably see a little bit of the fallout from the will, and I'm assuming Jimmy receiving nothing.
Or they'll see each other at the funeral or something. Who knows?
And it'll like that's the only way I can see Howard being any part of the story.
I enjoyed him
as
a
great
lot.
as Patrick Fabian is.
Yeah, I enjoyed him a lot this season. Every episode, I was like, man, this guy's great. So I'm hoping that we'll get at least a couple guests, but I'm hoping we'll get maybe a little bit more.
All right.
Lots to look forward to. We
That's
think
true.
AMC renewed this show. I don't know what you're waiting for. You know you're gonna do it because you know if you don't, Netflix is just gonna be like, "We'll take it." Like, are you? Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
That is true.
I could see Netflix on the phone with them tomorrow, being like, "Are you?"
I could definitely
for real?
go
You're not
for
going
an
to renew this?
uncut Better Call Saul. I could do that.
I don't think. You know what? I don't think that Amazon could do that. I don't know if they have enough money now that they bought Whole Foods. So
Honestly, like I don't even know that moving it to
money
Netflix
machine.
would change the show in any way.
No.
AMC is so hands off with the show.
I think we would get. I honestly think that we would get a little bit more in terms of like language and
what nudity is
violence.
I
I
think
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 stays
straight
the
up.
same. I think ultimately the only difference would be that we would get a little more. We'd probably get a little longer episodes because Netflix is more fluid with like length. So I think you would see longer episodes. I think ultimately that's it. But I don't think AMC is gonna.
No, but you'd
renew
also
this
see
show.
is that boom, they would drop all 10 episodes at once, so you could binge the, hell out of it.
Yeah.
there's also definitely, never mind. We don't need to get into that. If anybody picks up the show,
Yeah.
All right,
it'd be
so
better
like
than-
this
this
show-
would be an unacceptable last episode.
Yeah, and no one. I don't think anyone's gonna say but this show. Like my last thoughts on it. Like this show is such high quality programming. It goes beyond that. Like the universe that we're living in is obviously one of the best universe, like the biggest universes that we've seen on television because of Breaking Bad. They expand it with like the online content. Like I think you guys talked about the Kettleman thing last week. Just like a little 3-minute short film, and it's not just tugging your heartstrings, just like slamming, pulling out your heartstrings. Go check it out on BCS Bingo, or whatever it is. But it's a really cool little piece. There's so much that this show has to offer. I can't wait to see season 4 because I don't have any doubt that we'll get it.
We're all gonna enjoy it too. All right, so Steve, where can people find you? Besides here, man. Besides here, where can they find you? Like, what shows are you doing?
They can find me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That's Kaufmann. When Suits comes back in July, that'll be my next show up. But otherwise, I do wrestling pay-per-views here. I'm also on week 2 of what I'm calling the sober year, which is from birthday to birthday, I will not be drinking. And I'm doing a vlog about it, so if you go to thesoberyear.com, it'll take you straight to that YouTube playlist.
Nice. Nate?
Hey, you can find me on social media at DogLikeNate, and I'm around. I do a bunch of shows here and there and everywhere. Next week I'll be doing the season finale of Silicon Valley, so check that out.
Nice. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Always, man.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson. Finishing up the Doctor Who after show right now on Sunday nights, and Killjoys on Sci-Fi comes back in a few weeks for the summer, and that's such a ridiculous show, like the total opposite of this one. But check it out.
And guys, I'm Rick Hong. You can find me on all social media at Rick Hong, RICKHUNG. And Sunday, I'll be reviewing Glow, which has been getting great reviews on Netflix. So thanks for joining us all season long. And until next season, adieu.
Better Call Saul.
That's right.
Call him.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Better call you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.